Alright, here's another example. We've got negative 2x squared plus 6x plus 2. So opening up or down. So we'd look at this part right here that's got the x squared. It's negative, so this one is opening down. To find the vertex, we take negative b over 2a, and then we plug that back into our function to find the y-coordinate. So in this case, b is 6, so we'd have negative 6 over 2 times negative 2. And that gives us 6 over 4, which is 3 halves. So now we'll plug that back in. And we've got negative 2 times 3 halves squared plus 6 times 3 halves plus 2. So now we need to multiply this together. Now multiplying this together, multiply the negative 2 times 3 halves squared, you'd get negative 4.5. Use 6 times 3 halves, and that would give you 9 plus 2, so 9 plus 2 is 11, minus 4.5, that would give you 6.5. So the vertex on this one is 3 halves, or 1.5, comma 6.5. Let me write that in a different spot. Alright, the axis of symmetry, that is the x-coordinate that we just found, which is 1.5. Remember, x equals negative b over 2a. Right, the y-intercept, remember that's the easiest to find. We plug in 0 for x. That gives us an answer of 2. Now most of you should start recognizing that, hey, this right here is your y-intercept. The x-intercept, that's slightly different. So when we have this one, we plug in a 0. Now recognize that they're all divisible by 2, so I'm just going to divide everything by negative 2. So that gives me an x squared, a negative 3x, and a minus 1. Now in this case, notice that negative 1, if we multiply that, that's only negative 1 and 1. And we can't get negative 3 from those, which means that we would have to do the quadratic formula. So let me remind you of the quadratic formula. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and the whole thing is divided by 2a. So we would plug this in. We've got negative 3, so that would be 3 plus or minus the square root 3 squared, so that's 9, and then minus 4 times a times c, so that would be plus 4, and that whole thing is divided by 2 times a, which is 2. So we would have 3 plus or minus the square root of 13 all over 2. So 3 plus square root 13 and 3 minus square root 13, those answers divided by 2. Now your domain, this is an upside down parabola. Remember that we can plug in any real x we want. So your domain for the function is all real numbers. The range of the function, that would only go up to the vertex, everything below that. So y would be less than or equal to the y-coordinate on your vertex, which was 6.5. Now to graph. So we're going to graph the vertex, which we said was 1.5 comma 6.5. So 1.5, 6.5, so right here in the middle. Our line of symmetry was 1.5, so going right down through that dot. We also said we have a y-intercept at 2, and then I'm going to reflect that across. And then we said we had x-intercepts at square root 3 plus or minus, 3 plus or minus square root 13, and then that whole thing divided by 2. Now that's approximately 3.3 and negative 0.3. And we can draw our line going up through the dots.